Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you so much for dropping by this video. To anyone who's new to this channel is dedicated to helping people understand the difference between authentic non-duality and fake non-duality, often called Neo-Advaita or Neo-non-duality. So, I've said it before and I will say it again. I'm not a guru. I am not enlightened. I wish the Neo-Advaita teachers would say that. Namaste, Heart of a Warrior. God, I love that name. Life would be a lot simpler if Neo-Advaita teachers would say that, much less realize that they're not enlightened and they're not perfect. But, oh well, we can always hope that one day. So I got a beautiful, beautiful letter. So I've spoken many times about the energetic, you could say, blessing or energetic blessing that happens with someone who is at least partially awake or has their kundalini active and awake. They just kind of radiate energy. And many Neo-Advaita teachers fall in this category, that if you sit in their presence, just their presence will elevate you to a spiritual experience. I've shared some very dramatic examples. I've had some very dramatic examples of this myself. And it can be very confusing because then the thought is, well, they can lead you to a pure experience through their presence. And so the thought is, well, what they're saying must be true. And nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. A great example was very early in my spiritual career. I went to this spiritual center, and as I was driving there, I had this feeling like, wow, I feel like I'm going home. And when I walked in the door, actually the guest house, I felt something. I just felt completely different. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? And then that night, I did some meditation before I went to sleep, and I woke up the next morning a completely changed person. Literally, like ego, fears, it was just gone. And a new person was there. A great person, an empowered person, a wise person. I'd say my best self. And I just was thinking to myself, what is going on here? Like, I was going for a week-long retreat. And it hadn't even started yet, and I hadn't even met the teacher yet. This was just walking in the door. And so when I finally met the teacher, I literally surrendered to the teacher because I literally was just transformed. Well, it ends up the teacher was an absolute narcissist, severe personality problems, very dishonest. Not a Neo-Advaita teacher, interestingly enough. This was before I got into Neo-Advaita. But very, very dishonest person. Now, here's the interesting thing. This teacher had a guru who was very pure. Very, very pure. And this guru gave this false teacher, let's call him Joe, it's not his name, said to Joe, I'm going to give you the ability to pass along an energy blessing. And so Joe, this very impure, narcissistic, dishonest person, was able to pass along this amazing transformative energy. Well, I didn't know this or understand this at the time. I was a young pup of 23 years. So I literally surrendered to Joe, and my life just went out of control. It was nuts. So that was one example. So all these years, I've been calling that energy shaktipat, because a lot of people do. And you'll hear it in Neo-Advaita circles as well. But I got a beautiful email from someone who is in I haven't verified it, but I trust this person based on just their mannerism and their tone and information. He's in a traditional, um, it's called Trika Shaivism. So that's its own subject, what that means. It's a specific sect of you can't quite say Hinduism, but of Hinduism. And it's based around the practice of shaktipat. And so what this person pointed out is that yes, that he himself uh, is able to pass along a kind of blessing because of and have an energetic impact on people because of his years of spiritual practice. However, that's not Shaktipat. Shaktipat is a very specific form of energy that only, well, I won't say only, but is a very specific kind of energy that in general only a true teacher is able to pass along. So I've talked about Shaktipat multiple times. I've kind of just thrown the word around without fully understanding its true definition. And I don't still fully understand it, but this person's helped me refine my knowledge a little bit. And I'm grateful. Thank you to this person. So what this highlights, not only that I'm not perfect and not a guru, what this highlights is that a true spiritual teaching has very precise language. And this has been one of the things that I've been complaining about Neo-Advaita for a while, is that they borrow language from Advaita Vedanta and then use it incorrectly. Just as I was using the term Shaktipat incorrectly, they'll use things like self-inquiry, the self, the world is not real, etc., etc. They borrow words, use the same words that have a very specific traditional meaning, and then misuse them. So, I think that's all I have to say on that for now. And I'll just close with the capacity to energetically uplift another person does not equal enlightenment. If it did, I would be enlightened. I have that ability. I have that ability to energetically bless people. When people meditate with me or when I do energy work on people, they have some pretty deep, profound experiences. I don't say that to brag because I am very far from perfect. I share that to educate people. And just as this person who wrote in said that he's able to pass along a kind of blessing or upliftment, but he's not able to pass along Shaktipat, which I don't believe I'm able to pass along either. From what he said, it's a very precise skill. And I don't have that skill, and he doesn't have that skill. And I don't think any of these Neo-Advaita teachers have that skill. So some thoughts to ponder on. It's very important because so early on in my spiritual career, before I met Joe, the teacher I talked about, oh, cool, Heart of a Warrior. I'll take your comment in a moment. I started following this teacher in this form of meditation, and I had profound experiences, like very profound. And it ends up while this teacher had a good heart, this teacher was very deluded. He was sharing things like the return of Christ was imminent, and he made all these prophecies which didn't come true, and he just taught all these things that were untrue. Yet, he taught this form of meditation that was able to, I had very profound experiences doing this meditation. So I falsely concluded, based on my powerful experiences with the meditation, like, oh, well, everything else this guy is teaching must be true. And that's just not how spirituality works. There are very few pure spiritual teachers out there. And the pure teachers won't want your blind obedience. They'll in some ways they'll expect you to inquire and verify truth for yourself. Heart of a Warrior wrote, people find neo-advocates attractive because it offers them an easy shortcut path, and no one wants to put in the hard work to do sadhana and bhakti yoga. It's Kali Yuga, and hence Neo-Advaita is common. Heart of a Warrior, brother, thank you. We might have a lot in common. I've recently really hopped on the bhakti yoga path, doing a lot of singing and dancing to God, so we might have a lot in common. So I completely agree that Neo-Advaita offers a shortcut path. So what people don't understand is in traditional Advaita Vedanta, you don't start self-inquiry until you're practically a monk or a nun. That's how like until you have a balanced personality and until you're almost completely detached from the world. Like in traditional Neo-Advaita, it's like you get your personality balanced, which includes also learning how to live in society. Then you become detached, like where you're just not interested, where you're not seeking happiness in the world, and not because you're depressed, but because you're just like, happiness isn't to be found here. You have a refined mind that understands that happiness can't be found in the world. Once you have that, then you're qualified to practice self-inquiry. Well, there's other qualifications, but like that's like the baseline. And so, yes, I completely agree, Heart of a Warrior. Not only do people not want to do the hard work, most people can't. The path I just described, becoming detached from the world, I tried for almost, let me see, how many years did I try? For about 28 years, I tried to prepare myself to become detached from the world, and I failed utterly. Because the thing is, Advaita Vedanta is only for a certain type of person. The higher up practices and the more basic practices are bhakti yoga, which I'll get to in a moment, and are karma yoga. So and so the second part, it's Kali Yoga, and it's Kali Yuga, and hence Neo-Advaita is common. So for those who aren't familiar, Kali Yuga is a Vedic or Sanatana Dharma, the underlying philosophy behind Hinduism term that basically means we're living in an age of discord and dishonesty. It's a very dark age from the Hindu perspective. And during that, falseness predominates, disharmony predominates, amorality is predominant. And so if I'm understanding you correctly, Heart of a Warrior, you're like, well, of course Neo-Advaita is going to become common. Like we're living in the age of lies and the age of disharmony. Marion Rose put, and that's the other lie that Neo-Advaita will teach you is like, hey, if you just do enough effort, you can enlighten yourself. Well, it's actually a traditional teaching in Advaita Vedanta that enlightenment is up to God, that ultimately enlightenment is an act of grace. Yes, effort is required in traditional Advaita, but the final say about enlightenment, it is. That's like Advaita, traditional Advaita Vedanta 101. You can't enlighten yourself. You must strive for it. This is traditional Advaita. You must strive for it, but the timing of it is absolutely not up to you. And which it's ridiculous. Neo-Advaita teaches like if you just inquire enough, or if you just go to satsang enough, or you just believe enough that you don't exist, then you'll be enlightened. It's literally like a self-help program. And that's not how That's not how it works. Heart of a Warrior wrote, beautiful, you said it right. It's called the Dark Age, Kali Yuga. Man thinks he's the doer of his own liberation, but the truth is God grants you liberation when you are ready. Beautifully said. In traditional Vedanta, and there's different schools of Vedanta, and I've talked about this before, it's a combination of grace and effort, but ultimately it's always down to grace. That doesn't mean you do nothing, but it also means you can't make it happen. It's a very subtle topic. I don't feel qualified to speak more on it. Uh, but it's a very important topic because Neo-Advaita teaches it completely wrong. Like it's you can enlighten you. All right, beautiful souls. Marion, it's always a delight. Heart of a Warrior, really appreciate your input. And yeah, I'm going to talk about it more on this channel. I've really hopped on the Bhakti path. And I'm going to speak more about that down the road. So thank you so much, beautiful souls, to everyone who took the time to watch this. Heart of a Warrior and Marion, thank you so much for your input. I mean, Heart of a Warrior, you're new to this channel. Welcome, and I hope welcome back. Marion, you always just have these gems. You just bring gems into, and I love talking about this stuff. That's part of why I do this, but I love when other people share their wisdom. So thank you. Marion, you came at just the right time. Heart of a Warrior, thank you. Love to you. Love to all. I wish I had more time today, and I don't. I wish everyone a beautiful, beautiful day. Take care. Big love.